Craig Wright is a native of Baltimore, Maryland, where he studied religion and philosophy in his youth as a member of the Baltimore Ethical Society, and he holds degrees in psychology and metaphysics. He is an ordained metaphysical minister and a certified metaphysical practitioner. And I got your email, read your book. It blew my mind, and I would like to talk about it today if you don't care.
Okay, great. I'd love to.
First of all, I've been looking at everything on your website, and I've watched several YouTube videos about what you do. I understand a little bit of it, and it's really intriguing, especially the thing that you sent me, which I'm going to ask you about in a few minutes. That's really intriguing. But just right off the bat, I kind of know how you got into this, but I would like to hear it from you from a little different perspective. I know you didn't grow up in the church or learning about numerology. How did you get into it? It was in college, right?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I actually started in seventh grade. I got very good grades in math, and my parents decided they wanted an engineer in the family. So you know how that goes when you're a kid. You do what mom and dad says. Right. My mom was a school teacher, so I was never out of school. Math, science. That's all I knew. I was preparing to become a Navy pilot. I wanted to fly aircraft, and you need a good background in math and an engineering degree. So that's what I was headed toward. Okay. And then tragedy happened in my life. I lost a very, very dear friend to a tragic accident. It was actually a drug overdose, and I wasn't even aware that he was using. So that changed my entire life, changed my entire perspective. I started to wonder if life was so meaningless and it could be taken so arbitrarily. Why am I here? Why am I going through this whole process of thing called life? If it's going to hurt this bad and things like this can happen. And I started to ask those tough questions, why am I here? What's the meaning of life? And I'm in this state of I guess, wanting to know. I don't know what to call it. And I heard a song on the radio. And it was called In Search of the Third Eye by who wrote that? Anyway, it'll come back to me. In Search of the Third Eye. So what is this? And the song, the lyrics were secrets of numbers, secrets of sound, secrets of wisdom can be found in search of the third eye. So I'm like, okay. Roy Ayers, that was the artist, Roy Ayers. And it's on an album that is called Everybody Loves the Sunshine. He's throwing a lemon up in the air. Okay. So I finally got a copy of the album. And I read the jacket. That was back in the old days, back in '72. They're pressing wax then. Oh, yeah. And inside the jacket, it was the author of the song said he read a book. It took me 2 years to find that book. There was no Amazon, no, just go on the internet and pick up a book.
I remember those days. Oh my goodness. In school, I told my son, we're going to the library. And he was like, what for? We have Google. Go ahead.
Exactly. This is the age where you just Google everything. But back then, I wanted to study about numerology. I ended up having to go to the Library of Congress to do it. There were no books in the bookstore. Now there's a numerology for dummies. That's how, enculturated it has become. Right. But back in '72, I had to go to the Library of Congress. So I'm reading about the secrets of numbers. God is talking to me. Up until then, I did not believe in God. I thought it was a crutch for the weak, a figment of people's imaginations. If you couldn't see it, feel it, taste it, touch it, or smell it, it wasn't real for me. So, but when my best friend transitioned, that started my search. I started to yearn for wisdom, for knowledge. I wanted to know why I was here. And God was talking to me in a way he knew I could understand through those numbers. And everything was starting to add up and make sense. So I just delved deeper and deeper into it. And I guess you could say I was my first client. I started to discover that my friend's passing wasn't an accident. That was love. That was an act of love on his part to awaken me. This is how I started to interpret it. Because I started to get into spirituality. I started reading about Sufism, Christianity, Islam, all the great world religions. I wanted to know. I wanted answers. And in Christianity, it says, there's no greater love that someone give their life for you. So I began to interpret this tragedy. And I started to read and discovered I was a number 7. And as a number 7, my job was to discover hidden mysteries of life and share them with others. I'm like, I'm doing it. Whoa, wait a minute. So,
well, I'm going to ask you about that in a few minutes, but I have a really pressing question, because I grew up in a weird church. But all of my life, I believed in God. I believed in a higher power of some sort, and I can't really imagine not believing that in a higher power. So when you say you didn't believe in God back then, you didn't believe in any. You thought when you died, that's it.
Yes, that's what my parents taught me.
Okay.
You do good here on earth. You don't do good because there's a reward waiting for you somewhere,
right.
A pie in the sky. You do good because it's the right thing to do. And
right.
I was raised in the ethical culturalist. Okay. As an ethical culturalist, it's a humanistic organization started in New York by Felix Adler. And they've got, little satellite offices all around. And that's the culture I was raised in. Okay. I was raised with they were the participants there in Sunday school. I went to Jewish synagogues, Catholic churches, Baptist churches, Presbyterian. I met people from the Orient. So I was exposed to all the religions in Sunday school, and right. I saw how they all started with one idea, and then it started to spread as man got involved and said, well, no, I want it this way. I want it this way. Yeah. So it started to divide and break up and all these different things. But it started with one guy, Akhenaten in Africa, who said, there's only one God, Right. He didn't last too long. The politics of the day caught up with him because he put the tree priest out of work. The sky priest, the water priest was out of work. So they got rid of him quick.
It's always politics all the way back through history. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, really. So so numerology became my awakening to this is what people have been talking about. It's real. It's real. So because I was getting it in a language I could understand.
Right. So,
and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I always loved math because 1 and 1 was always 2. So what they say, the numbers don't lie. So this was very, very convincing for me, and it just changed my life. I began to study everything I could get my hands on it. But then what happened was God said, okay, now it's time to share. That was the scary part.
How long ago was that? Whenever you were ready to share?
I discovered it. Well, my search began with the passing of my friend. That was 1972. I went public as a professional numerologist in 1988 when I was a guest on a radio show of Reverend Hazel Cassell, and she gave my phone number out on the air. Well, I mean, now when I do shows, I expect the host to say, well, how can people get in touch with you? What's your website or whatever they say. But back then I was like shocked when she did it. So people started calling me, and Ryan, I had to just start, I just had to start coming up with ideas and services and readings and forecasts. I just created all this stuff in response to the demand.
But you had no idea she was going to put your phone number out. That's a perfect play. You just got to jump off and build your wings on the way down, I guess. That's pretty neat.
Exactly. So I learned from a song, and I was thrust out into doing this professionally by a radio host. So it was kind of like, this is my calling. I've had a lot of jobs, a lot of careers in my life. I'm 70 years old now, and as in May, I turned 70. But throughout all that time, this has been the one consistent thing that stuck with me. Now, back in 72, people would run away from me. I said, hey, let me tell you about your numbers. Get away, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Numbers, So I would give people information, and a drowning person doesn't care where the life raft comes from. But over time, as I would share information, I'd be like in a checkout line, and I would see a name tag on the grocery chest, and I'm like, okay, God wants me to. So I would share something with them. So that's how the word got out what I was doing. And so over time, I was thrust out there. I started doing these services. So I've been called by different organizations, churches. Baltimore City called me up, psychology department. I've been working with people who are coming from prison, trying to get back to their families, all different types of applications now. So back then, God was preparing me and making sure I stayed faithful to it. So when the time came, I'd be ready.
That's a fantastic story. I mean, seriously. Look, so this is the reason that I reached out to you. I watched a YouTube video and where you were on there late at night, and I just had on my headphones. I didn't know you from anybody, but everything you said resonated with me because I know there are numbers built into everything, into every single. You can't do anything without numbers. You can't build anything. Even the construct of our thoughts, they're coming up with ways and algorithms to read everything through numbers, through whether it's the golden ratio, the Fibonacci numbers, whatever. Numbers are in everything. And whenever I saw this, I'm going to pull up my thing that you sent me, if that's okay.
Sure. Those are the tools. Those are the tools.
It's really, really intriguing, but I was kind of confused. I read the book. I read the entire book.
Oh, great!
And you know, I'm still confused about it. But when I saw this, can you explain where's it at? What is a global service? I mean, I think I would know what a global service in leadership capacity is, but I'm trying to figure out the column over here on the right side. Can we talk about that?
Great. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Now, first of all, numbers are different from figures. That was a major breakthrough. Numbers are different from figures. If I hold up an apple and I say I have one apple, that's a quantity. But if I say Granny Smith for number one, now I'm no longer talking about a quantity, but a quality of being the best. Okay. So numbers reveal qualities. Figures are for quantities, measuring things on the material plane, but numbers reveal spiritual qualities. Everybody knows what it means to be numero uno, leadership, the first, the fastest, the top, the best. But what we don't know is every number has a meaning. And that's what that chart shows. The right-hand column that you're referring to, those are double digits, 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s. Okay, and they're called master numbers. Master numbers are testing numbers. It's like an investment. If you put it in the bank, I don't know, you might get what, 0.5% today? I don't know.
You might lose 1%.
But if you want to get really risky and put it in Bitcoin, you know, hey man, I remember when Bitcoin was $600. Now it's 34,000.
Oh man!
But tomorrow it could be 24,000. So it's like a roller coaster ride.
Oh, I know.
Those are the master numbers. They're testing numbers, but they offer a greater opportunity for success. So what you do is you substitute a number for every letter in the name, and it's based on the alphabet. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. In the case of double digits, like the letter R is the 18th letter. So we just add 1 and 8. So we get 9. The letter Y is the 25th letter. So we add 2 plus 5 to get 7. A is a 1. That's the first letter. The letter N is the 14th letter of the alphabet. So we add 1 plus 4. So N has a value of 5. Why? Because there are only 9 digits. There's only 9 digits. After the number 9, nothing new. Okay. There's only 9 digits.
Only so many ways to cut it. So yeah. Okay.
So the double digits they emphasize it. So you're 22. You're at 22. That's a double digit of cooperation and peace. So that's a global vibration. 22s operate globally. Your influence can be felt all around the world. It's called the master builder. So I don't know, 22 children, they're the ones that take the phone apart when they're a kid. Mom starts screaming, "What are you doing? You're taking everything apart." And they, that's their curiosity. They want to see how everything ticks, how it works. 22s also are really crazy with a hammer, hammer and nails. They can really build stuff, So it's like do it yourself. DYI, that's the number 22. They're very competent in everything that they do, and you have the potential to affect the planet as a number 22. So that's where that double digit comes from on the other side. Having the ability to bring people together. Okay, the number 2s is like couples, partnerships, man and wife, up and down, opposites. So 22s can bring people together from all walks of life. You may have friends that can't stand each other, but they all love you because you're the joiner, you're the hub, your 22s are the glue. So they're builders. And you can reach across the water and make a connection with people all around the world as a number 22. It's a master builder vibration and a globalist. In fact, it's what you promise you do. You see, the letters in our name are part of a contract we have with the Creator. The birthday is what the Creator gives us. The name is what we promise back. Your last name, the 42, is the number of the professional artists. So you may have painters or writers or entertainers. You may have people in your, because it's a family name, you may have people in your family that are doing creative and artistic things and thriving. I have a lot of clients, they call me, Dr. Wright, I want to sing. I said, I want to paint. So that's great. Do it as a hobby, but keep your day job. But the number 42, that is the number, bar none, of the professional artists. Okay. So when you combine that, it adds up to 64. 6 plus 4 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1. That's that number 1, leadership. So your calling, okay, our name is our calling, it's our promise, is to be of global service. 6 is a number of service. 22 is the globalist. So you're here to be of global service. So you're being of service on the World Wide Web. You're doing a service on the World Wide Web. So you're fulfilling your contract when you do this right now. The number 42 is also the number of the minister. The minister, because it's a number 6. Jesus turned 6 vats of water into wine. He was showing he was here to be of service and to sacrifice himself. And the 6 is the number of the greatest among us. The Bible says the greatest among you will be the servants. That's the number 6. So you, along with members of your family, are great souls. You're some of the greatest among us. So you're here to be of service on a global level. So your impact can reach out and stretch across the globe, especially if you decide to write. If you decide to write something, because you have the gift. Now, a lot of people with the gift, they write, but they don't share it. You may have stuff written on the back of old notebook papers or matchbook covers or all around the house. This stuff you just write. Oh, I got to put that down. Yeah, I got it. Okay. And this is showing up in the E and the O in your last name. It adds up to 11. The E is a 5, O is a 6. See where I am? See where I'm at?
I'm looking at it. Right.
Okay.
Right here.
Excellent. So that adds up to 11. And if you look up top, 11 is the master of revelation and the master teacher. So how does 11 become the master of revelation? Well, you got a little gray in your beard. You may remember rabbit ears. Rabbit ears on top of TVs.
Oh yeah. Oh, my dad used to climb on the roof and turn the antenna, and I would lean out the window and tell him, "Okay, stop."
You've been there. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Well, those rabbit ears are the number 11. So as a number 11, you have the ability to pick up, just like that antenna brought that picture to your screen. You have the ability to decipher spiritual emanations and translate them into a form that the rest of us can understand. And that's why the writing. You will have automatic writing experiences as God is transmitting through you. You've got to get it down, okay? Now, what you're receiving is truth, light, and wisdom comes through the number 11. If that sounds familiar, there was a guy who says, "I'm the light of the world." And if you look at JESUS, J is a 1, E is a 5, The two S's are ones, and the U is a 3. And if you add that up, it adds up to 11.
Huh.
Okay, so,
okay, yeah.
so that's why I'm saying if you decide to write, or I should say, if you decide to share what you write, it can make it to the big screen.
Well, okay, we'll talk about that in a bit. But I mean, I resonate with what you're saying,
Cool.
and I'm kind of. It's mind blowing. You know, some of
I tell you, it's amazing. I used to, instead of going to work, I would drive to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. and spend my 8 hours there until they threw me out.
So what do you do to get into the Library of Congress? Do you just walk in? I mean, is it like a library, like a normal?
Yeah, well, I haven't been there since 9/11, which really changed the world. This was back in 1972. You just walk right in. The only difference was you couldn't take the books out. You show them your ID, and you would write down. You go to a catalog, you write down the books you want, and you give them to a runner. You could only get up to 6, and you give them to a runner. They would take your list, disappear for 20 or 25 minutes, and they gave you a desk to sit at. And you sit there and you wait. Then they come back with your books.
Okay.
And you just sit there and you read your books, but you couldn't take them out, and you had to leave them there on that desk.
Okay. So you just write down whatever from the books. Could you take photos? Could you take cameras back then it was expensive to.
No, you couldn't bring any cameras into the Library of Congress because of copyright laws.
Okay. Okay.
Plus, there were no cell phones. There were no cell phones then. So.
and it was expensive to develop film.
Exactly.
So, oh goodness.
And I just sat there and just kind of absorbed it all. And as time went on, as time progressed, there were more authors out there, more people I guess they were on the same path I was. So I was able to increase my knowledge, increase my learning. And as time went on even further, I discovered a school, the University of Metaphysics. And I was able to enroll in there and get a Ph.D. in metaphysical counseling. With time, it just all worked out. So I think my story is helpful for people who are going through trials or tribulations and they're wondering, is it worth it? Hang in there. Trust me, it will be. There's a reason for everything. I discovered that whatever you call it, okay? Scientists may call it the ethers.
Right.
Christians will say God. So Jewish folks will call it Yahweh. Whatever you call them, I'm sure the Native Americans had 1,000 names for them too, but whatever you call them, that force is real. And numerology is a way of communicating with that energy in a universal language. I call the universal languages music and numbers. Music and numbers, Right. Numerology is really almost the same as music because composers use letters for notes and numbers for timing. But the letters in our name and the numbers in our birthday symbolize the song we play in God's symphony, in the symphony of life. So we're God's song.
Do you ever get thrown off guard? Do you ever look at, whatever that you're looking at in life and your numbers say one thing, but then something totally different happens, or does it always line up every single time?
The numbers always line up every single time, but depending on what I'm studying and applying it to, there can be so many variables. It's still hard to get to it,
Right, yeah.
It's like I'm still trying to crack the NFL.
Yeah.
I get the quarterback's birthday, but that doesn't do it. It's too many guys on the field.
Oh, too many moving parts. I mean,
exactly.
Goodness, yeah.
So the numbers always work, but I'm not always able to work the numbers. I'll put it like that. But there's never been anyone that I've encountered that once they give me their name and their birthday, the information I share, I've never had anyone say, "That's crazy. That's not me."
Yeah.
That's never happened. I was my first client. The first person that I did a lot of work on was me, to find out who I was, why I was here, and the meaning of my life, the purpose of it. And what I discovered was, in life we have tests, and those tests become our testimony. If it doesn't wipe you out.
Yeah.
Caveat.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. You know, right before I got on here with you, just to be truthful, I was having a little anxiety attack, because I do just about on a lot of interviews, because, you know, I don't know what anybody's going to say, and I don't want to, you know, of course, make a fool of myself on, you know, on a camera. But, and I was like, you know, well, if I live through it, then I win. And if I die from it, well, I'll win anyways, because I get to go meet God. You know? So how could a person use numbers, like, let's say, when they're praying? I mean, I know there's all kinds of numbers throughout the Bible, or throughout all of the holy texts. How can you use them in prayer?
Oh, you get a whole nother meaning when you understand the numbers. For example, 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, that shows up a lot.
Yeah.
When it rained, the children of Israel wandered 40 years in the desert before coming to the promised land. Jesus was tempted 40 days. So this, we read about this 40. Well, in numerology, if you look at the chart, 0 is a symbol for God, and 4 stands for order. So whenever you see the number 40, it means God's about to establish a new order. A new order is about to be established, okay, when you see that. And the 0 stands for God, or oneness, and 4 is work in order.
Okay.
Yeah, 40. They're 40. The story of Jesus. 3 wise men, 3 sleeping disciples. One of them denied him. His main boy denied him 3 times before the rooster could crow.
Right.
And he arose on the 3rd day. So Jesus is about the number 3, and that's where the abundance aspect of the 3 comes from, because he says he was here that we'll have life and have it abundantly. So, you know, it just puts form to prayer. It makes it real. When you're reading the scriptures, then you're connecting with the energy. You're reading a little deeper, and you can see the same element of this in the scripture, of the characters and what they go through, manifesting in your own life.
Right. That's. I mean, I'm kind of speechless, because I have so many questions. I don't want to, you know. I don't want to.
I understand. Believe me, I understand. I have to keep remembering the impact that this had on me when I discovered it.
You know,
and it's powerful.
Yeah. I'm going through somewhat of an awakening myself right now, and so everything, it's like I'm drinking from a fire hose right now, and it's
you got away with words.
I'm trying to fit this in. Are there any science? Okay, so in a lot of metaphysical things, we know them to be true, we know them to work, but the main thing for what I try to do, I try to connect if there are any scientific studies, or if there, you know, even private partner, things like that. Is there anything that I could find out there online, such as, you know?
I'm trying to think of the university. It's slipping my mind right now, but there was a university in California who did a major, I think it was a 10-year study on numerology.
Okay, I'm gonna
so that document does exist. And if you trace it, it goes back 3,000. Information about numbers have been found 3000 BC. There's evidence that numerology was being taught in the mystery schools in Egypt, where Pythagoras studied 22 years. That's what I discovered in the Library of Congress. When I started studying numbers, it started with Pythagoras, the father of mathematics. Okay, the Greek philosopher. So I'm studying all his stuff. I'm tracing back his life at the Library of Congress, and I get back to his dad tells him, we can't teach you anymore here. You have to go and study in Egypt with the masters there. So he enrolls in the Egyptian mystery schools for 22 years, and then comes back with Pythagorism. Okay. If you had geometry, you know about the hypotenuse squared, sum of the squared over two sides, all this stuff about the Pythagorean theorem. But it was also a life theorem. And he discovered that everything can be numbered. And that's where he studied there. So the problem was they used the oral tradition. But when he came back, he was writing everything down. So he kind of got credit for it. If you talk to the world, they give the Greeks a credit. But if you talk to the Greeks, they give the Egyptians a credit.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, how many years ago was that? When was he around?
3100 BC.
Okay.
Was when numbers were discovered. This is before Christ. So
yeah, it's about 5,000. Yeah.
There's evidence in the Bible where every time someone goes to Egypt, okay, Moses went to Egypt. Well, he was raised in the house of Pharaoh. He writes in Psalms 90, verse 12, so teach us to number our days so we can apply our hearts to wisdom. Being numerologists, Jesus studied. He was told to go to Egypt because Herod was killing all the firstborn kids. So they run off to Egypt, and he's studying there. He comes back changing people's names, giving them little spiritual tune-ups. Abram and Sarah had their name changed in Egypt. They got H's added to their name. So like H is like a elevation, you know. It's the 8th letter of the alphabet, and it means as it is above, so it is below. So they knew they were here to express God's will when they got those H's added to their names. So just a lot of information, which is the first letter in your last name, by the way, which indicates you have the ability to channel heavenly power to the earthly plane. The number 8, as it is above, so it is below. And when you turn the 8 on the side, it's a symbol for infinity. So it gives you wide angle vision to see things and to take on projects other people will think are just too large or beyond their scope. Like you said, you like to take your drinks out of a fire hose, not a cup.
Yeah, sometimes it seems like that. My goodness. Oh, I just took on a project a few months ago, and whew, that's the topic for another day. Oh my goodness. Oh.
You're number one. You're number one. If anybody can get it done, you're the man for the job.
Well, I'm certainly going to try. I'm writing an app because I'm a big prayer. I like to pray a lot. You know, I think everything revolves around the spiritual, and the physical plane is pretty much nothing. You know, so. In doing this, I thought I want to find a way to track healings and things like that, whatever you're praying for, because nobody's tracking it. And I'm working on that. And it's been a big project, and it proved to be about 8 times bigger and more, and about 10 times more work than I even thought about, you know, whenever I was thinking of it. And some things, though, they're so important. You just have to go after it. And I think I might be where you were back in the 70s, you know, because it's like he's turned on something in my brain. I can't tell you what it is, but it's there. So
awesome. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. You mentioned a lot of work. The number of work is a number 4. Work and orderliness. We talked about that with the 40. Mm-hmm. But the master number is the 22. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. So that's your name. So 4 stands for work. The number 22 will make you a workaholic.
Yeah.
Okay? So you got to get out. You got to get out, take more vacations, have more fun. Most people, they have to do the opposite. They have to be serious and work harder. You need to have more fun.
Okay. Well,
when the 22 shows up.
That's I think my wife has told me that a time or two. So
it also gives you an amazing ability to manifest your ideas. Okay. The scripture says God created the earth on the 4th day. So what does that mean? When you're a numerologist, that tells you all things come into physical manifestation under the number 4. You got to have 4 involved, or it's not going to work. Everybody's just on someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that, and nothing gets done until the 4 energy shows up. And you're a 22. it gets done.
Okay. Well,
it gets done. You won't stop until it's done.
That's my God. You know, so okay. Again, it's hard to articulate. Some people think, and which I agree with. I agree that not every what's the saying? Not every prophet is a prophet. However, everything that you're saying, it not only resonates with me in my intellectual understanding, but it's resonating on more of a spiritual level in a way that I can't tell you. You know, I mean, what's going inside? You can't express that to people. So,
I understand.
This is something I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at this pretty in depth.
You just broke me into 1,000 little pieces when you said that. I consider myself a numerologist. You just said this stuff is prophetic. When I was working for the government, and I met this guy named Stanley Rubenstein. I mentioned him in my book in the credits. He was in my book. And there I was sitting beside Stanley Rubenstein working for the federal government, where I said, I would never work for them. I don't care what happened. I wouldn't. But I got married. I had some kids. I took a test. They let me in. I'm sitting there doing what I thought I'd never do, right beside this guy named Stanley Rubenstein. He starts talking to me about God. And he says, Craig, you're Jonah. I said, what? He says, you're Jonah. I said, what do you mean? He says, you're in the belly of the whale right now. This is not what you came here to do. And I hadn't thought about that. I was 28 years old. And I'm 70 now. I hadn't thought about that for years until you said that. So I guess he was right after all. But I don't like owning that moniker. I throw it off all the time. I tell people this is a science. Anybody can do this. If you can add 1 and 1 and get 2, you can do this. Now, I may have been called to it by higher powers. I won't deny that. But I always tell people, you know, if you can add 1 and 1 and get 2, you can do this, because the information has been around for over 3,000 years. And all I'm doing right now, I've been studying this and studying it so long, I'm just sharing with you information that I've just memorized from all the books that I've read and the people I've studied from. And so a lot of people, they say, well, where did you get this stuff? I said, I didn't make this up. You know, I'm just sharing what I've learned. And I was just so taken by it. It became a career for me. But I like to not only give people a fish, I like to teach them how to fish. So whenever I do a presentation, or if I'm blessed like I am to share with you today, I like to give you the tools. That's all we use: the conversion grid and that chart with the meaning, and that's it. You know. And
I can look at anything, take anything, and just break the numbers down. I'm gonna go through your book again, because
yes, you can.
Yeah, I read through it, and I'm gonna give it another shot. The first one I was like, what, how? So
when is your birth date, by the way?
I will
just today.
The what now?
Birthday. The day.
The number first? Day? The first. Yeah.
Yeah. You were born on the 1st?
I was born on the 1st.
And your name is a number 1. You know what that means? Okay, the birthday is God's part of the contract. The name is our part of the contract. And you said, before we were formed in the womb, because we're spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience. We're not physical beings.
Right.
But before you were thrust into the womb as a seed to be born into this, you said, God, I'm going to be whatever you want me to be. He says, well, I want you to be born the 1st. I'm going to give you the gift of leadership. You say, well, guess what? I'm going to lead. I'm going to stand on my own. I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to be an initiator. I'm not going to be an imitator. This is the promise that you gave the Creator. And this is why you're here. Man, if you try to work 9 to 5, the boss will fire you. Okay.
I know.
Okay. Not because you're a bad employee, but if the boss doesn't get rid of the number 1, you will end up with their job. Because you've been anointed as a leader. Most bosses have been appointed. They know somebody, or maybe Uncle Bob gave them the job. You have been anointed by God to lead on a global scale.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and give you my other birth date. I want to find out.
Okay. What's the month? Don't say October. Last name. Another confirmation when you said, God, whatever you're so far, you have been totally committed, and because your birthday is matching your name. Okay, you've been totally committed to whatever God gave you. You said, that's what I'm going to do. I want you to be a service. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I want you to be a leader. Well, that's what I'm going to do. So there's no conflict at all between your name, which is your promise to God, and his gifts to you. And basically, you just rubber stamped it.
That's cool. And I'll take that. You know.
So what was the year? You with me?
I am.
0 is a symbol for God. 3, that's that Jesus number I was telling you about. 3, expression, youth, abundance. So that's called the birth path number. That is the sum of your month, day, and year. Now, your year was a 5. That's freedom, change, being a change agent for God. That's your year, the number 5. But when I put it all together, okay, that's where that 30 came from. So what does that mean? Your words will have the power of God behind them. You have to be very, very careful what you say. If you tell someone they're going to be successful, it will inspire them to do so. But if you look at someone and look them in the eye and says, you're going to be a bum, you may find them on the corner with a bag in their hand. So you are accountable for your words. Okay? The world was created by the word. So you have power to create by what you say.
I 100% believe that. You have no idea how much I believe that. That's
awesome power, man.
Hey, this is
number one. God trusted you with it. You're his leader, and your words have power. If you speak it, it's on the way into manifestation. I know that sounds crazy, but that's your power. That's your gift. The walls of Jericho came down by sound. Okay, that's your power. That's your gift.
I didn't know this was going to get emotional. Goodness. All right.
With that said, you're going to have an amazing ability and opportunity to influence the lives of children. If you're in a room and children are there, they will be drawn to you like a magnet. I mean, have you ever heard the Pied Piper? Heard of that guy?
Actually,
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what to say, because there's so many things that you're saying that I was either told recently, I've been told in the past, just in a different way.
It's confirmation. It's confirmation. Numerology is confirmation from God that, yeah, come on, right. You're on the right path. Keep on going. That's what it was for me.
Well,
so I'm guessing it's having the same effect on the people I share it with. It's like, wow, this guy doesn't know me from beans.
Well,
it's right here. It's right here. It's like you just added up the numbers, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
It is amazing. It's amazing, and even though we've been talking for almost, dear Lord, almost an hour now.
Wow!
And I know it just went by. Wow. Let me. I want to. What can I do to share people with you? Because I want you to talk to some people. Because I mean, what you've told me today is just I have no words for it, man. I have no words for it. I can't, of course we can't prove anything to anybody, but inside,
Yes.
you know
Yes.
what you're talking about. So, how can they reach? I've got your website pulled up here. CraigWright.com.
That's Craig E. Wright. Middle initial is E.
CraigEWright.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they can just go here and they can contact you, or they can see any services that you offer, get a consultation, see about him, see any events, or look at his book. And this is the book that you sent me.
Yes, yes, it is.
And I read it, and I was actually laying down in bed, and I was supposed to get up early for work. Well, whenever I started reading it, I kept reading it and kept reading it. So, but yeah, go visit him and check out what he's got. Give him. You got to talk to him. You got to talk to him. Greg,
thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to be launching an app here pretty soon, and I'll send you an email when it's ready.
Awesome.
We're tracking prayers is what we're doing. So,
that's great, man. That's great. That's great. That's our mission, to make it real, to make people realize this is real. This is no joke. It works. We're here for a reason.
We are here for a reason. And it seems to me that lately, over the past few years, the world has been waking up. I don't know. There's a different attitude out there, Are you seeing it as well? Yeah.
The age of Aquarius is upon us.
Well, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to respond to that, but there you go. Oh man.
Ryan, it's been great, man.
It has been great. Thank you so much for doing this. And I'm gonna put it together. I'll send it to you, and we'll see if we can get it out there to people. Okay.
Hey, great. Keep up the good work, man. It's great.
You too.
You're gonna. Oh, God wants me to share this with you.
Okay.
Translators, start getting your connections.
Okay.
Translators, because people are praying all around the world.
People are praying all around the world. Absolutely. You know what though? When we're praying, and that's a topic for another day. Look, whenever I pray, I don't just say words. You got to feel it. I mean, and I felt it. You were talking about whether it's in the ether, whatever you want to call it. We're feeling it everywhere. All right. You have a great day.
Okay, guy.
Thank you for this. And I'm going to get you this copy here pretty soon. Okay.
Okay. God bless.
God bless.